minutes. Guys, Andrew Berry is going to speak to the media from Indianapolis at the NFL Combine here at 12:30, which really means about 12:45, which means we'll react to it on tomorrow's show. But let's take a little gander and preview it's just the reality how that stuff works. It's never actually at 12:30. So what do you want? Ty, I'll start with you. One thing you want to hear from Andrew Berry today when he addresses the media sometime in the next 2 hours?
Well, the first thing I wanted is to say we need a wide receiver, and we're going to be in this draft process, and we're going to do everything in free agency to try to upgrade that position. I'm tired of him coming out saying we like what we have at that position. Like, stop it. You know you don't. And the thing is, you need to start admitting your mistakes. You made a mistake. Some guys didn't turn out to be the guy that you thought they were, and that's okay. That's human nature. But stop saying that we're happy with that position. You're not. So I want you to come out and say we're going to be very aggressive this offseason looking at the wide receiver position. We understand that Amari Cooper has 1 year left on his deal. Although we love to keep Cooper around and want him to retire a Cleveland Brown, we understand the nature of this business. So we're looking to upgrade there, and also we want to help Myles Garrett and get another playmaker on the opposite of Myles Garrett. We've seen how great this D-line has changed our total defense. Having that pass rush, having some guys in there that can make plays has really helped us become a more successful team. So we want to continue to build in that area. That's what I think you should say. And if you say something like that, everybody will go.
Earl, what are you hoping Andrew Berry says today in the next 2 hours?
When Andrew Berry comes out to speak to the media today, I hope the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, "What's up, y'all?" First, me and Kevin Stefanski just both signed contract extensions. We are going to be here for the long haul. So with that being said, it's time for me to get busy. We're going to be aggressive in the offseason, like Tyvis said. I want you to also know that I've had preliminary talks with Nick Chubb. We're working on a new restructured contract that'll keep him in Cleveland for the rest of his career. That we're going to start talking to Myles Garrett, working on a new deal for the Defensive Player of the Year, and that Browns fans shouldn't worry, that we understand the team's needs, and we're going to do everything in our power to address every single need so this team next year can go contend for an AFC championship and possibly make it to the Super Bowl. We understand that Amari Cooper has 1 year left. We understand that he's a wide receiver that's aging. We're going to do everything in our power to try to keep him possibly on the new deal. But we definitely are out here looking for more weapons to go on the offensive side of the ball to help a struggling wide receiver core, and most importantly, our franchise quarterback.
I think what you guys both said is very valid, but I think y'all missed the number one thing that we need to hear from Andrew Berry today. And that's an update on Deshaun Watson. How's the shoulder progressing? Is he throwing yet? Is he ahead of schedule? Is he behind schedule? Because all the weapons on the offensive side of the ball, the Nick Chubb situation, the defensive side of the ball, all that's null and void if Deshaun Watson isn't Deshaun Watson next season. We need DW4 to be as good of DW4 as we've seen during his time in Cleveland, and I'm curious to see what the update on his status is because we haven't spoken, heard from, or frankly seen, which is totally fine because he's rehabbing. We haven't seen Deshaun Watson since the end of the season. And nobody knows an update on his status better than the general manager of the team that employs him. So I hope Andrew Berry comes out today and gives us a little insight into the progression of Deshaun Watson's recovery from the shoulder injury that knocked him out of the game, or he finished the game against Baltimore, had that terrific 14-for-14 second half with the bum ankle and the shoulder, which, by the way, as we get more removed from that, the fact he went 14-for-14, led the game-winning drive, led that comeback on not just a bum shoulder, but a bum ankle too, because he made a bunch of plays with his legs. Like as
third and 14.
As we grow further and further from that game, like kind of the lore of that performance just gets better and better and better. But I'm really curious to see if Andrew Berry addresses, and I'm sure he'll be asked about it, a status update on one Deshaun Watson. I also would like to know if there's any clarity on how the offensive play calling situation will be handled. And I know that's not necessarily an Andrew Berry question. It's probably more of a Kevin Stefanski question when he speaks on Wednesday. But those are a couple things I am looking forward to hearing Andrew Berry address today.
You know what he's going to say. He's going to come out.
That's the question like for Kevin. Again, I know everybody wants to know that.
Like his whole question this is Kevin. What I want to hear.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, we know Andrew Berry so well. We know the lingo.
We already know.
We know the lingo.
He's going to come right into this press conference and he's going to say, you know, as the Cleveland Browns, you know, we're always looking to upgrade those positions. But, you know, right now we like where we are. We're happy with those guys that we have in those rooms. Deshaun Watson, you know, he's did a really good job. You know, we want to continue to support Deshaun in every way we can. So when we come back in the season, you know, he can have a really good season.
My favorite.
It's going to be like, you're going to say all this but not say nothing.
This is my favorite way. Yeah. That's a good question. You know, as we get later on in the process, I think, you know, that's a better time to answer. Right now it's just this early on in the offseason? So that's a good question. We have to answer that later.
And we're probably going to get a lot more of that than what we all hope to get, but that's the reality situation. Now, about the free agency plans, though, Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, who's one of the friends of the show, put out an article yesterday kind of outlining what she believes from speaking to people in the Browns will be their offseason plan. I want to highlight a couple of these and want to see if you guys agree. This is according to Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com. The Browns' plan is to try and re-sign Taki before he hits free agency,
Smart.
allowing them to set the market price, not see what he would get on the open market. Mary Kay said they would like to retain Mo Hurst and Shelby Harris, but they're fearful Jordan Elliott will want to hit the open market before they have a chance to negotiate a deal in-house. So potentially lose Elliott, keep Hurst and Harris. She mentioned Harrison Bryant will likely test the open market, opening up a potential need at tight end. She also said that the Browns, and I want to word this exactly as she did, the Browns want to retain Joe Flacco and Za'Darius Smith, but they will let them hit the open market to dictate the price first. So they're not willing to offer up a deal until they know what the market value for Joe Flacco and Za'Darius Smith is. However, in a perfect world, they'd like them both to come back. So you guys want to run down that list and see if we agree with Mary Kay Cabot's. This is not her opinion. This is her just reporting on what she thinks the Browns' plans will be. You want to run down the list?
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, the first name that kind of stood out to me was Taki. Like,
and that's the first one on the
like
list,
when
yeah.
Taki moved to that Mike linebacker position, I remember talking to this man about it and just seeing how much more assertive he was, how much more aware he was, and how much more he was able to make plays out there on the football field. And I think Taki can permanently move into the Mike linebacker position, which will fill a need because I don't think they're going to re-sign Anthony Walker. I think this is a good football player. This is a dude who, when you got good football players on your team, you want to do everything in your power to like keep those dudes here. And Taki has been more than serviceable throughout his NFL career since he's been here. And it'd be interesting to see him to kind of like, permanently take over that role and what he'll do with it.
Yeah, Taki's a good player. The thing with Taki that stands out to me is that sometimes he's not consistent. Sometimes he makes plays where I'm like, dude, oh, that's really good. Like you get your zone drops, you get in that hook window, and you end up making a play there, or you make some really good tackles when it's in between the tackles. Like you do a really good job there. But then there's some games where it's been times where you just look completely lost. So I think I'm giving it to the fact that it is your first time really being at the mic. I know they did it last year before you tore your ACL. You was kind of forced in that position. It was good. This year it was kind of up and down. So I'm hoping that, and on top of that, it was Jim Schwartz's new playbook. So I'm hoping year 2 in this system, you're able to take that next step. That's the thing. That's the next thing in your path to being a great linebacker. We already know the Cleveland Browns is not going to spend money at the linebacker position until JOK's contract comes up. And I think Taki can get the job done because he's done it. He just has to be more consistent, and him being year 2 under Jim Schwartz, which has done a really good job of simplifying things. If JOK can take that next step, then you also can take another step in your game and be a really good linebacker.
And here's the thing with Taki. So of all linebackers with at least 300 cover snaps last year, he was one of the best coverage linebackers in football. Not just by the eye test, but by the metrics. Now, when I say first, that means best, even though it's going to be first in yards allowed or first in percentage targets caught, but that's the best.
Right.
Like you want to be high. He was 3rd in passer rating allowed, 80.5. This is any linebacker in football, 300 targets. He was 5th in yards after catch allowed. So if you did catch it on him, you ain't getting any further. He's tacking him right away. And he was 1st in the percentage of targets caught, just 62.5%. So in coverage, Taki, among all linebackers qualified, not just AFC, but we're talking NFC, any linebacker that played 300 coverage snaps, there were very few in football that were more productive, more efficient, and more valuable than Taki. And with Anthony Walker most likely not coming back, he wasn't even mentioned in Mary Kay's article. We talked about the depth in the linebacker room without Anthony Walker and Taki, and it's a bunch of nobodies outside of JOK, with all due respect to some of guys, just unproven commodities on the NFL level. Taki was awesome last year, and I only have reason to believe he'll get better in 2024 with a set position in the Mike position for the Jim Schwartz defense and more reps under his belt. I don't know why he'd regress. I think the sky's the limit for this dude.
Yeah, like I say, when I watch him, he was one of the very few. Him and JOK did a really good job of getting back in coverage. And I think well, I don't think I know, talking to some people inside of the Browns building, that was like one of the biggest differences between Jim Schwartz and Joe Woods. For some odd reason, the linebacker play, when it came to getting back in your curls and getting in the passing lanes, they didn't do a good job with Joe Woods, which I pointed out a bunch of times. Yeah. I remember the Falcons game. I'm like, what the heck are y'all doing in this? But anyways, last year under Jim Schwartz, they did a really good job of getting in coverage and making plays, and it's when you're playing DB, when you got those linebackers that's getting 10 to 12 yards in those hook windows that can stop those digs or make that quarterback put just a little bit more air under the ball, it allows you to be able to run underneath it and make those plays. So I thought both of those guys, they're both athletic enough to get it done. And like I say, as long as they continue to keep getting better, which everybody gets better year two under the same defensive staff. Yep. Under Jim Schwartz for my second year, I don't have to go over the basics anymore because I know it like the back of my hands. Now let's talk about other things. Let's look at advanced things. Let's look at when the running back is 5 yards instead of 7 yards, expect this. Or when the tight end is in the grave digger, I should expect these type of routes. Like, that's where your mind should start going now, and that's what makes you become a Pro Bowler or All-Pro and become better at your position.
So we're all on the same page. Don't let Taki hit the open market. He's much better to Cleveland.
And you drafted him, so you going to want to pay him anyway.
Let's start with the defensive tackles here. According to Mary Kay, they would like to re-sign Hurst and Harris. They're probably feeling that Jordan Elliott will test the open market. Earl, we talked about this last week when we did the defensive tackle foundation. Tyvis, if they go with Hurst and Harris as the two they bring back to pair with Tomlinson and Siaki Ika, are you comfortable with that 4-man defensive tackle rotation?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Elliott made a lot of plays this year.
He's really good.
He went from a guy that G. Bush was through with to a guy that we start seeing consistently week after week, especially towards later in the season. But I think Shelby and Mo Hurst both they're veterans and they've been in this league for quite some time. And like I say, I always told y'all, Shelby got one special ability that you can't really account for. Those PBUs is big, and getting your hands up and knocking those balls down really do play a big part, especially if you're going up against like the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens. You can steal 2 or 3 extra reps from a guy knocking the ball down and don't have to worry about them getting the first down or something. That's big. Mo Hurst. Only thing with Mo Hurst is that he just gets hurt. His production was really good when he was in there. The guy made a ton of plays when he was in there, but his durability is not good. And that's the only thing that scares me. Am I okay with them letting Jordan Elliott test the market? Jordan Elliott will get paid because defensive tackles is a premium. If you got a good defensive tackle, you keep him and you forever, or you always on the hunt looking for one. And I think he'll find a home relatively fast. But if they want to roll with Harris and Hurst, I'm cool with that because I think as long as Hurst stay healthy and Harris is a great veteran and a guy that you can rotate in there that can do something, that can be productive on the defense.
Yeah, I'm all for keeping Mo Hurst, and I understand the injury concerns. But like I said last week, you get 10 to 12 games out of this dude with the production that he put forth last year. And as he alluded to, when you're in year 2 of a system, things kind of slow down. You're able to do what you do even better. I'm all for bringing him back, even with the concerns of him being hurt, just simply because I know what he gets me when he out there on the field. Same thing with Shelby Harris. Like, even though he's a veteran, like those PBUs is real. You know what I mean? When we do those game stats on Sundays after the games, and it don't look like it's much, but when you actually watched it and you realize the impact that he have on a football game, I can see why you want to bring him back. I can also see why Andrew Berry might be willing to let Jordan Elliott hit the open market. This is a dude he drafted, and yeah, he was good last year. But if I'm AB, as you talked about starting the show, sometimes you gotta admit your mistakes, and maybe he's just not sure, if he can get the same type of production out of Jordan Elliott like another season. Who's to say that wasn't just a 1-year motivation type thing because he needs to go out here and get paid. And so the fact that Andrew Berry is willing to let a guy that he actually drafted hit the open market, I think that's alarming, but not in a bad way, more so in a good way. And so that could show his growth if you so speak as a GM. Maybe you can find the upgrade there. But I think like once we see players get franchise tagged and we actually know what the free agent market will look like, I think we have a better idea of the route that they're going to go, especially with that position.
Yeah, I think it shows more trust in Siaki Ika, taking a step from a non-factor at all as a rookie to being a guy that can play in the rotation as a sophomore, if they're going to let Jordan Elliott go, because I think the combined price tag on a 1-year deal for Hurst and a 1-year deal for Harris will probably be in the similar range to what Jordan Elliott gets on a multi-year deal.
Yeah.
Whether Elliott gets, $6, $7, $8 million, you're going to get Hurst and Harris for $2-3 million each. So would you rather have 2 for 1? Does Harris and Hurst equal Jordan Elliott? I feel pretty good if that's the trade-off, assuming you feel confident in Siaki Ika taking that next step.
Well, the one thing that we know for sure is that you can't afford to get that wrong. I mean, we seen a season where we didn't have defensive tackle play, and it was a disaster. I am confident that both of those two, obviously Shelby, because I played with Shelby. Shout out to you.
And Shelby never misses games, by the way. We talked about his durability is incredible for a defense.
But I do believe that with the defensive coordinator that you have, he just does a really good job of always having good D linemen, especially at the defensive tackle position. I don't know what he asks of them, but whatever it is, they get it done. And to be able to rotate guys, you're always pretty fresh. So I think that with this decision, you're trusting that Jim Schwartz knows what he's doing, which he has a track history of knowing that.
Real quick on Harrison Bryant, they signed Jordan Akins last year. Earl, I know you thought that would be a bigger impact signing than it turned out to be. Mm-hmm. I thought Bryant actually was a really, really, really good second tight end for them, especially considering he was their 4th and inches sneak quarterback in the package Stefanski developed. He's going to test the market, may come back, but I do think losing Bryant, you could always replace him with a blocking tight end, draft a guy, but I thought Bryant was a pretty valuable piece of this offense, and at least the guy I would hope Berry, depending on the price tag, will look into bringing back as well.
I just think I can understand in this case, again, why he's willing to let him hit the open market. This is a dude that you drafted who was the best tight end coming out of college, best pass-catching tight end coming out of college.
He won the Mackey, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, when you don't kind of get the return on investment as far as production on a football field from him, you could be a little bit reluctant to want to travel that road again. I can see the Browns actually drafting a tight end either way.
I can see that
this year in the draft, but you're not gonna overpay this dude, and so it is smart to go out there and let him set his own market based on his production over the first 4 years. And if the Browns can get him back at a decent price, I can see them bringing him back and still drafting a tight end because Akins is getting older, and you want to have a dude on a rookie contract, so we're not talking about salary cap when they come to that position.
I look at that Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant did a really good job. I thought he was very productive this season. But when you look at this roster makeup, listen, this team is going to more so an air raid. We're going to be passing the ball a lot.
Right.
I don't think they really – when you bring in a guy like Ken Dorsey, you're not looking to run this out of 12 personnel. When I say 12 personnel, I mean 2 tight end sets, 2 wide receivers. That's not what when you think of passing the ball.
He wants to spread it out.
You think of
13.
You think of 11 personnel, 1 tight end and 3 wide receivers, or maybe 10 personnel, no tight ends. David Njoku took that next step. I think the reason that they kept Harrison Bryant around for so many years is because he was an insurance policy. It was if David Njoku gets hurt or doesn't actually turn out to be that guy, we got a guy who won the Mackey. We got a guy that we could trust in. We got a guy that Kevin Stefanski trusts. And once David Njoku started to take off this year with Joe Flacco and, towards the end of that season, it solidified this guy is a player. He's going to be really good. He's a top 5 tight end in this league. So we don't need that insurance policy anymore because we know David Njoku can do it. He's gone out there and he's proven it. So, yes, we are okay with letting Harrison Bryant walk because we can definitely just draft another guy because the next guy, we just need him to come in on some run blocking plays or something like that anyways. We know we have the pass threat in David Njoku. We know we have the mismatch with David Njoku. So we're not going to waste money because we already trying to figure out how to keep everybody anyways. We can't afford to waste money on a tight end too when we can always just get a guy on a rookie deal that can come in and have that same productivity.
I know it's not apples to apples, but it's funny that you brought that up because, even on Madden, right, when you go 10 personnel, David Njoku is in that package. It's 4
receiver, 1
right,
tight end,
and so to his point, he really broke out last season and showed that he's that dude, and he's only going to get better. We've heard Deshaun Watson talk about, man, we finna be passing this ball left and right. And then when you go back to, watching Ken Dorsey be the offensive coordinator and Buffalo, Knox was doing his thing, right? And then they drafted, what's that dude name? Kincaid. And they had an idea early on in the season about how to use them both and never really develop the way that they want to. And so I don't see Dorsey really wanting to run too much 12, 13 personnel either, man. This is going to be one of those vertical downfield offenses that we thought we was going to see last season. We're going to legit see it this year.
That brings us to the last two, and these guys fall in the same category, but we'll go one at a time. Za'Darius Smith, Joe Flacco, according to Mary Kay, the Browns will let both of these guys set the market. They want to bring them back, but they can't guarantee it. I'll start with Za'Darius Smith real quick, guys. He has said, even when he came to Cleveland, he's a mercenary. He wants to get paid. Like, he looks at this as his next paycheck, his next job. I'm going to imagine, and I don't want to speak for Za'Darius, but just based on his track record as a player, he's going to take whatever team offers him the most money. And I can't foresee a world with Alex Wright and Ogbo in that same position, and obviously Myles Garrett, but you're not taking Myles this time, where another team wouldn't offer him more money than the Browns would feel comfortable. So I think he's going to set the market. I'd be surprised to see him back in the Browns uniform.
The only way Za'Darius Smith is coming back is if, one, he really truly loved being around the Cleveland Browns D-line. You know, if he got here and he was like, you know what, I really like these guys. We really got a good thing going. And he can foresee himself winning a championship. He's like, you know what, they got all the pieces there. It is a championship mindset. You know, we just kind of tripped over our own feet. We had a lot of injuries, blah, 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 blah. But I think that we can win a Super Bowl in Cleveland. If he thinks that, he won't take the big money. He'll go to a place that's comfortable, a place that he enjoyed. If he enjoyed playing football opposite of Myles Garrett, then he'll come back because he knows he'll have that he can have some production because teams won't be scheming for him. But if it is about the paycheck, which if you say that's what he's saying, then there's no way. There's no way because Alex Wright was very productive towards the end of that season. Ogbo is still here, and he never really was Za'Darius to me. He had maybe one game where he looked really good. Yeah, but outside of that, this was like one of his worst productions or worst seasons of production.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would I go back there if I'm not being so the case utilized properly, you know? So
if you think Alex Wright or Ogbo could give you equal to similar production,
yeah, why would you?
In their contract, why would you spend that money?
Exactly. And if I'm Za'Darius, this is one of my worst seasons. Why would I go back there? So I'm gonna go to a place where if I'm not gonna be productive, at least I'm getting paid a ton of money. So like that's the way I look at it. But
for me, this is the one approach that I'm kind of tired of seeing Andrew Berry take. For the last 3 seasons, we done had a veteran pass rusher that's been 30 years old plus, opposite of Myles Garrett, on a 1-year deal, banking on that we was going to get the same production from this player that they got elsewhere. I think it's really time to cash in on a legit star pass rusher opposite of Myles Garrett. And I'm saying that I love Ogbo and I love Alex Wright. I think when they drafted Alex Wright, they viewed him as the pass rusher of the future. I think he came along strong at the end of last season, but I don't think he's ready yet. And as good as Ogbo is, I can't see him as an every down pass rusher, which is why I keep coming back to a dude like Brian Burns. I think it's time to spend some serious dollars opposite of Myles Garrett, lock you up a 25, 26-year-old pass rusher for the next 4 or 5 years, and stop with this every offseason cycle of, let me go get me a defensive end that's 30-plus years old on a 1-year deal playing across Myles, and then when the production don't match, we coming back here having conversations about Myles Garrett's sacks going down towards the end of the season because of his double teams and things like that. This is the one area to where I hope Andrew Berry is willing to take a different approach than he has the last 3 off seasons.
Brian Burns a free agent?
Yeah. He has not been tagged and is unlikely to be tagged according to reports out of Carolina.
That man going to get
the bag. Yeah, he's going to get a bag back. So just to make sure I got this straight, you're not paying market price for Za'Darius. If he wants to come back on a discount, let's have him back. You'd be welcome. But market price, you'd rather go and spend that money elsewhere and spend a little more on another defensive end.
My dilemma is this. I never want to turn away a guy who really wants to be inside my organization, right? Especially if it's not about dollars and cents. But at the same time, I'm really not sure if I want Za'Darius Smith back. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure if I want him back. I need somebody that can be way more productive opposite of Myles Garrett, especially if we're talking about, rolling what we have at the defensive tackle position on top of that, right? Like, let's let Alex Wright continue to develop. Let's let Ogbo do what he does as a specialist. and get a dude in here that can like truly dominate opposite of him. And I just don't think that dude is Za'Darius Smith.
What about Joe Flacco? Test the market. Would you pay market price for Joe Flacco to be Deshaun Watson's backup?
I definitely want. I want Flacco back as Watson's backup quarterback. I think Joe Flacco was good for DTR. I think he's good for Deshaun Watson. I think he's good for the Browns organization. Like, who better to have on your roster and in your quarterback room than a veteran who's been in this league 17, 18 years, that has seen damn near every type of defense, damn near every type of situation, and can help your franchise quarterback navigate some of the hurdles that he's going to, have to deal with as he come back from this injury, and just dealing with everything that's being Deshaun Watson, right? And then you look at the fact that Deshaun Watson is coming off an injury. And we seen what Joe Flacco was able to do for the Cleveland Browns last year when he got his opportunity. I don't know what DTR is. Mm-hmm. And so for me, Joe Flacco is that bridge. I know he's good for Deshaun Watson. I know for a fact he can help a young pup like DTR become better. And I just think how he carries himself, like his mentality, his professionalism, I think he's good for the Browns franchise, and I think he's good for the city of Cleveland.
Ty?
I let Joe Flacco walk and keep Philip Walker Jr.
We just let Tyvis walk.
No,
I knew he was. I knew he was. Wow, because Philip is a winner, huh?
Philip is a winner, but no, listen. No, first of all, Joe Flacco ain't coming back to Cleveland. Joe Flacco wants to be a starter. Joe Flacco will be a New England Patriots with AVP next year. So I think that once you let him test the market, I think that AVP was like, hey, you and I did well together. Come on over here to New England. We got to draft a quarterback anyways. We want you to groom the guy that we select with the third pick in the draft, who probably is Jaden Daniels or something like that. We want you to groom that guy. But we want you to start off because we know that you're good and we know that you prepare well. So I think that he's going to end up being in New England next year. But if he doesn't, and and Cleveland wants to spend some money and bring him back, absolutely you take Joe Flacco back. Why? Because you push Deshaun Watson, even though, like I said, Deshaun Watson needs no more motivation, but you also push him, make him become the best. And on top of that, I think that he learns a lot from Joe Flacco. Like I said, Joe Flacco's a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, blah, 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 blah. Did really well in this offense, even though the offense is changing. It'll also help build the locker room up. He's a great locker room guy. I mean, you seen some of the interviews. Once he took over, everybody was so happy with Joe Flacco here. So I think his presence in the locker room is really great as well. So if you can bring him back, bring him back. But I do believe that he will be a New England Patriot next year.
So if he's a New England Patriot next year, then Philip Walker is your choice for backup quarterback?
DTR.
I mean,
DTR.
It'll be.
I'm asking this man.
If Philip Walker isn't on your roster, you're doing something wrong. I mean, the man. What was his record again last year?
It doesn't even matter. Tyvis's main point was right, though. For the right price, you take Joe Flacco back 100 out of 100 times. If he's going to get paid starter money, I don't know how you match starter money for a quarterback, $9 million, whatever that may be, to have him sit behind Deshaun Watson, because it is unequivocally, unquestionably Deshaun Watson's team in 2024. Got to move on to the one more thing.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, okay, if it's not Flacco, so you're saying, like, would you consider another backup quarterback, or would you just be okay with it being DTR?
I don't hate the idea of it being DTR. I'm actually comfortable with DTR being the backup, and in a perfect world, I think Brissett's going to be $2, $3, $4 million. I think he'll cost half of what Flacco does. I'd take Brissett back.
I'll bring Joe. If I can't get Joe Flacco, give me Jacoby Brissett back. Either way, I need a bridge between DTR and Deshaun Watson.
I think at the end of the day, if Watson gets hurt, the season's over anyway.
We said that before.
We said that last year.
We said that
before. It was over last year.
No, we said that before.
It was over last year.
We said that before. You tell Miles Garrett that. You tell Martin Cooper that. It's
the reality of the NFL, man. It is
So
what it is.
if Deshaun Watson gets hurt hypothetically, and we got Joe Flacco or Jacoby Brissett, we got a healthy Nick Chubb, you still saying the season over?
You ain't winning a Super Bowl with that.
You don't think so?
Jacoby Brissett's not winning a Super Bowl.
Okay, but the season.
Joe Flacco's not winning a Super Bowl.
The season being over and winning the Super Bowl is two different things.
Your goal is to win a Super Bowl. If you're content just making the playoffs, sure. But if your end goal is to build a Super Bowl roster, and Deshaun Watson get hurt, I love Jacoby Brissett, but he sure as hell ain't winning you a Super Bowl.
So, but you know who is?
Philip Walker.
There you go.
All right, and if that's the case,
act like you know something.
If that's the case, we all live. All right, Tyvis.